and I definitely get seasonal depression. So I really wish I was in your position with 45 degrees.
Here's the good news. You've been hot with your picks, so just throw those outside. It'll melt all the snow for you, Erin Dolan, around you, because you've been on a heater the last few weeks, whether it's been here on Bet, whether it's been on Daily Wager. You've been riding a nice heater. Let's keep it going. Let's dive right in. We're going to start our Wednesday edition of Bet by flexing our brain muscle, this time for the good word. You know the deal here, Erin. I am going to read a statement, say something. You just use that big old noggin of yours there and tell me the first word that pops into your head when I do such. First statement, Matthew Stafford, Rams QB, plus 120 to win the Super Bowl MVP.
The word that comes to mind is winner. Now, I'm not saying winner as in Matthew Stafford's absolutely going to win this one, but you need to think as a bettor who is going to win this game. The winner is going to determine who wins Super Bowl MVP. If you think the Rams are going to win, then Matthew Stafford is the bet that you want to take. If you think that the Bengals are going to win, then Joe Burrow is probably your boy. Now, of course, there's other players that are in this market, but really it comes down to quarterbacks predominantly winning this market. 4 of the last 6 actually have been quarterbacks, 2 of them coming from Tom Brady, but not the one that the Eagles won, baby. But nonetheless, you kind of have to determine it that way. And Tyler, I went back and watched Daily Wager yesterday, and I heard you talking about how there is still some value on Cooper Kupp. Now, he's kind of up there in the middle of the pack because you have some long shots for the Bengals, but there still could be some value in terms of taking him, especially if he has a standout game.
Yeah, just like he did in the NFC title game. If Kupp has a great game, likely Stafford has a great game too, because he's got to throw him the football. But I mean, Kupp has just been unreal all this season. The word I am going to use is narrative. Okay. Now, the reason I'm saying narrative is because before the season started, there was a narrative, Erin. There was a narrative. It's the Michael Jordan poster behind you. I guess I saw that there. And I was reading an article by Rams beat writer Jordan Rodrigue. So that's why Jordan was in my head there. But the narrative around Matthew Stafford, Erin, is that before the season, he couldn't win the big game. He'd never won a playoff game with the Detroit Lions in 12 seasons, only went to the playoffs 3 times. But that narrative is being smashed. And if, like you said, the Rams win this game as a 4.5-point favorite, the narrative from these human voters may be swayed to give Stafford a lifetime achievement as long as he doesn't throw 2 or 3 interceptions. If the Rams win and Stafford plays a relatively clean game and it's not just like the defense dominating or 3 Cam Akers touchdowns, which is unlikely, then the narrative from these human voters will likely be to give Stafford this award. That's why he's your shortest odds, your plus 120 favorite, because everyone loves a narrative. And right now, Stafford is in the midst, potentially, of smashing his narrative coming in to this season. All right. I know you like a kicker prop. You've been hammering them with Evan McPherson and Matt Gay, and these 2 kickers, 2 of the best in the entire NFL, will meet in the Super Bowl. They both have a point prop of 7.5 for this Super Bowl. So what is your good word?
Yeah, I think the odds maker is kind of figuring out that we're cashing in on this, but my word for this is literally cash, because this is cashed in every single game in the postseason. McPherson, that is, has cashed that. Now, he's had 40 points in the last 3 games. That's an average of about 13.3 points, which is crazy to think about. And on top of that, only 4 of them were extra points. As compared to Matt Gay, he had 30 points, but 9 of those came as extra points. So we have McPherson, who's basically been this really clutch rookie for the Bengals. And again, it's cash. I mean, he's been hitting it every single time he's played in the postseason, and he's just been putting up big numbers for them. And I don't expect the Bengals to come into this game and throw a ton of touchdowns. I just don't see that happening, especially after the last 3 games. So if they get in those situations, I really do think McPherson could also hit one of the longest field goals. We'll talk about that, I'm sure, either later into the show or later into Daily Wager. So stay tuned for that conversation as well. But the kickers are absolutely dominating, especially McPherson.
Absolutely. I should have used the green for your font since it was cash. Mine's similar, and the word is good. You know, like when you kick a kick, whether it's an extra point or field goal in the NFL, and the ref goes, it's good? These guys have not just been good. They've been great kicking the football, whether it is PATs or field goals. Every time it seems they put boot to ball, especially for McPherson, the kick is good. So I think these 2 player props are good bets to go over in the Super Bowl. There is a relatively high total. It has come down a little bit, but it opened at 50. So the market's expecting some scoring here. That means touchdowns. That means field goals. I think both of these kickers have been so good, it's a good idea to go over 7.5 with both in the Super Bowl. Speaking of good, that doesn't do justice to number 10 for the Rams. Cooper Kupp has been an absolute God mode beast for the Rams. He is plus 280 to score 2 times in the Super Bowl, just like he did in the NFC title game. Erin, what's your good word?
Intrigued, as in I'm intrigued in this bet because, like you just mentioned, he did have 2 touchdowns last game. I'm not sure if he's going to have 2 in the Super Bowl. That'd be pretty incredible. But he did have 5 games in the regular season where he did have 2 touchdowns. Now, in this game, or I should say in the previous game, we were expecting that there might be some issues where, OBJ is getting way more production because they were able to shut Coop down. They absolutely were not able to do that. So it still kind of makes me a little fearful going against the Bengals defense that could allow him to kind of get wide open. And if Matthew Stafford has a great game, no interceptions for the man, then Cooper Kupp should go off, potentially have those 2. But I just wanted to mention something that was profitable for me last week. You can parlay anytime touchdown scores because I know there's not great value in Kupp anytime touchdown as opposed to taking him and parlaying him with someone. I had him and Deebo Samuel, and it cashed in that first half for me, which was great. So you could also always parlay some of the touchdown scores if you don't feel comfortable taking them at 2+ touchdowns.
Ah, very good advice, Erin Dolan, about the parlay game. My word is open. You know how Cooper Kupp is always open? No matter the down, no matter the defense that's being played against him. I don't love the value, but I do think there's a decent opportunity that Kupp finds the paint twice. We know he's going to get peppered with 10 to 15 targets from Matt Stafford. That is just what this Rams offense does. So it may be a good idea to open your wallet and sprinkle a few little ducats. Doesn't need to be a full unit. Doesn't need to be anything crazy, but at plus 280, the value may not be great. But Kupp has scored multiple touchdowns in 6 of the 20 games he's played this season. That's 30%. So it might be a worthwhile idea, especially if you think the Rams are going to win. If you're on that side, maybe a Kupp plus Rams victory parlay, or just open the wallet and sprinkle a little bit on Kupp being found open a couple of times in the end zone, because that's all the dude does. Just gets open. Scored a lot of touchdowns this season, 20 in 20 games played, regular and postseason included. All right, the good word in the books. Let's now get to the good people who are going to help us throughout the coming days figure out what to do with this Super Bowl. How about the Marina look from Brady Henderson, who is joining us now to talk the LA Rams? Love that you're enjoying the nice weather in LA on the West Coast rather than what everyone else in the Midwest and East Coast is dealing with. Brady, we appreciate you filling in for Lindsey Theory. You've done a great job following the NFC Championship and the Rams now to the Super Bowl. This Super Bowl, however, despite being in SoFi Stadium, home of the Rams, 56 is a turn for the AFC to be the home team. It alternates each and every year, and this year it just so happens that the AFC is the home team. So are the Rams going to be able to use their home locker room that they're so used to? What are they going to have to deal with actually being the visiting team in their home field?
Yeah, Tyler, you know what? Jalen Ramsey was actually wondering the same thing post-game Sunday. He was asking reporters who's going to be in the locker room, what jerseys the Rams are going to be able to wear. Now, what I'm told is that the Rams will use their usual locker room at SoFi Stadium, even though the Bengals are officially the home team. The Bengals, though, will get to have first pick of which uniforms they wear, and the team tweeted out a picture this morning indicating that they'll be in their home black uniforms. Now, it remains to be seen what kind of an actual home field advantage the Rams will have on game day at SoFi Stadium. Based on my very unofficial scan of the crowd last week at the NFC Championship game, there was at least 50% 49ers fans there. Now, it certainly will be an advantage for the Rams to not have to travel and to be able to use their usual practice facility in Thousand Oaks for these next 2 weeks. As Sean McVay put it, that will allow them to stay in something of a normal routine.
And Brady, this Rams team kind of reminds me of the Bucs. They traded for Matthew Stafford during the season. They get OBJ, they get Von Miller, and now they're Super Bowl favorites. What are the Rams saying in terms of being essentially a home favorite to win the title?
Well, Aaron, that has not really been a talking point among players, at least not yet, but there certainly is way more pressure on the Rams than on the Bengals for reasons even beyond being the home team and the betting favorite. There's pressure on them because this is a team that has very much mortgaged its future in order to win now. They don't have a first-round pick until at least 2024 because of the Matthew Stafford trade. They also gave up their second and third-round pick this year for Von Miller. They're not currently projected to have a pick within the top 100. They've also got very serious salary cap issues. They're currently projected to be over the cap right now, which is going to make it hard for them to re-sign some of their key free agents like Von Miller, like Odell Beckham Jr., among others. And so there is very much pressure on the Rams to win now because this may be their best chance for the foreseeable future to win a Super Bowl.
All right, Brady from the Marina. Now, you're usually based in Seattle, and I know you're pinch hitting covering the Rams. So are you in a Seattle Marina right now or an LA Marina right now?
This is a Seattle Marina, yeah, and when you brought me on, you noted how nice the weather is. I'm not really sure how nice it is, but it will be much nicer in LA, thankfully.
All right, we can't wait to see you down there in LA at SoFi, helping us out, getting us ready for Super Bowl 56 from the Rams' perspective. That is Brady Henderson. Brady, thank you so much for taking the time to join us here on Bet.
You bet. Thanks for having me.
Let's move to the Cincinnati side, and that means we got to bring in Ben Baby, who I like the green. It's nice and vibrant, Ben, but I was kind of hoping for another blazer that was rocking a vibrant color. Maybe we're going to say that for game day coming up in Super Bowl Sunday?
Hey, listen, we've got a little bit of time to get ready for the Super Bowl. You gotta get things prepared after a wild AFC Championship game, but I will bring the heat sooner rather than later, trust me.
Oh, I don't doubt it for 1 second. Let's dive into this Cincinnati team. Improbable that they're in the Super Bowl 56 in LA against the Rams at SoFi. They beat the Raiders at home, then go on the road, beat the number 1 seed Tennessee, and then that stunning comfort behind victory against the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC title game. When you look at them matching up with this Rams team and you talk to those players and coaches, what are the biggest concerns for the Bengals about what the Rams can do to make their life difficult on Super Bowl Sunday?
Yeah, when the Bengals look at this matchup against the LA Rams, a team that obviously Bengals head coach Zach Taylor knows very well because he was on the staff the last time the Rams were in the Super Bowl. This matchup starts all up front, and it starts with a big guy in the middle named Aaron Donald. You know, the Bengals, alluded to it and referenced how good Aaron Donald has been, calling him one of the best defensive players in the NFL over the last 5 years. And when you look at that defensive line that the Rams have, when you talk about Aaron Donald and Von Miller specifically, that is a formidable group. They're number 1 in the NFL in the regular season in our pass rush win rate, which is an ESPN metric powered by NFL Next Gen. And they're going up against this Bengals offensive line that throughout the regular season was one of the worst in the NFL. And we saw what they did against Tennessee, giving up those 9 sacks. And against Kansas City, that was something that I think Zach Taylor managed around. Now, they said that, they thought that the offensive line played well. Both Joe Burrow and Zach Taylor, said that they complimented that group. However, it was a much different game plan the Bengals had the second time around than the first. And what's maybe more alarming is the Bengals were rotating their right guards in the AFC Championship game. And that's not because of injury. It's because of lack of options right now. And I think the Bengals are still trying to figure out that's going to look like, and especially when you're talking about some of the odds and some of the prop bets going into this game, we're curious to see how that pass rush is going to affect how often the Bengals are going to risk Joe Burrow dropping back behind the line of scrimmage, maybe throwing the ball a little bit more. Will that mean we're going to see more rushing attempts, fewer passing attempts, perhaps fewer passing yards? All things to keep in mind as we get ready for Super Bowl Sunday.
And Ben, Joe Burrow has been given many nicknames, some by social media, some by his teammates. A couple of them, here's a funny few. Joe Shiesty, Joe Burr, Joey Franchise, Jackpot Joey, the Tiger King, Smokin' Joe. So 2-part question for you here. Which one does Joe Burrow like best, and which ones do his teammates prefer to call him?
Yeah, well, first off, we got to rule out the Tiger King because I don't think Joe Burrow likes animals in cages. He was very adamant about that during the pre-draft process. It's funny. I could see Joe Shiesty gaining some traction. He basically all but told the rest of the AFC to come get it back in blood when they shed the underdog narrative and they went out and chased the AFC title game. But I got to go with Joe Burr. He's got the ice it's all cool. You know, you saw the diamonds. He said, you know, I make too much money to have fake ones. There's no cubic zirconium in those chains. And I feel like that confidence, that cool mentality is really permeated throughout this team. So right now, I think Joe Burrow might be the leader personally, but a lot of his teammates are referring to him as Joey Franchise. And when you see what he's done in the transformation that's undergone in Cincinnati over these last 2 seasons, it's hard to argue against that one.
No doubt about it. Ben Baby helping us out here on Bet with the matchup. And then, of course, what everyone wants to know, the nickname game for Joey Franchise, Joey Burr. We'll see how those develop. Plenty of time to get us ready for Super Bowl 56. Ben, we appreciate you dropping by.
Yep, thanks for having me.
Always. Now, Aaron, it is time to, even though we're still, 10 days or so away from the Super Bowl, we want to make some bold predictions. And before we do that for Super Bowl 56, I thought we'd pat ourselves on the back here, ED, and remind the world about the bold predictions we made for this AFC title game last week. Can we roll those bold predictions, please? What bold prediction do you have for this weekend?
I'm going to go with Evan McPherson. He will have 10 points in this game. For me, I really think that could potentially be something that happens.
I say it's back-to-back OT games at Arrowhead Stadium. 12-1 plus 1,200. I gotta admit, Aaron, I like your frames
I love those
better.
glasses.
Yeah, you had like the Wayfarer frames. You had some kind of frame that I liked a lot better than mine there. But you probably make a lot of things look better than I do with my ugly mug. But we're riding a hot streak here, baby. It's time for more bold predictions, Super Bowl 56 style. We did so well allowing you to lead off last time. So let's not mix anything up. Let's not change our mojo. Erin Dolan, give me a bold prediction for the Super Bowl.
Yeah, not to be superstitious, but I was wearing black in that video, and I'm wearing black again, so maybe that's going to help us a little bit here. But I like Aaron Donald to have 3 sacks. Now, he will tie the Super Bowl highest of 3, which 4 players have already hit if he does have 3 sacks. This is a very, very bold prediction. He's only had 1.5 sacks in the last 3 games, with 3 games in the postseason. But one thing that people are really not talking about anymore is how many times Joe Burrow has been sacked. One, during the regular season, which was 51 times or 54. Either way, it was terrible. But he was sacked 9 times against the Tennessee Titans. This Rams defense is the best defense that Joe Burrow is going to face so far in the postseason and probably in a while. And I'm very concerned about that because I feel like of all players, Donald being the best defensive player, I would, say in the league, a lot of people would argue that, then you could see him basically sacking him left and right. And I think it could potentially happen because I feel like this is a weird thing. I feel like the Bengals just keep sneaking by, and eventually they're not going to be able to just keep sneaking by. But then I'm like, they just beat the Chiefs. You know what I mean? I'm kind of in this weird spot. I know we didn't make any game predictions yet. We're not going to probably do that until next week. But just overall, this is a bold prediction that Aaron Donald will have 3 sacks on him, but that's what I'm rocking with.
I love it as a Rams fan, Aaron, and someone who will verify your claim, your statement that Aaron Donald is the best defensive player in the game. And I would argue the best the game has ever seen. I would love to see him get 3+ sacks. That would make my day because that would likely help the Rams in a significant way to a victory. My bold prediction is that there will be a 50+ yard touchdown scored. I don't know who it will come from, but in this game, we will see a big play, a 50+ yard score. Let's start on the Cincinnati side. They had 12 such touchdowns this season. 12 touchdowns in now 20 games played of 50+ yards. That was the most in the NFL. It makes sense. Joey Franchise has the rocket arm, and he's got T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, Jamar Chase, Joe Mixon. We'll see if C.J. Uzomah is available. But then you look on the Rams side, Cooper Kupp is a beast. Odell Beckham's a beast. Van Jefferson can get deep. We know Matthew Stafford has one of the strongest arms in the NFL and is one of the most aggressive players in the NFL. And then, who knows if we don't see a punt return, a kick return, a scoop and score, a pick six. Those could be 50+ yard touchdowns. I just think there's going to be a big-time, big game-changing score that is of 50 or more yards in this game. I didn't wear red like last week. You wore your black, and hopefully we can get some
You were looking like Tiger Woods.
I know. That was my Nike Tiger Woods pullover. It absolutely was my Nike Tiger Woods pullover. So some bold predictions. Going to try and run it back, going 2 for 2. Good stuff there, Aaron Dolan. Let's now move to the NBA. 9-game slate on a
Let's get
Wednesday
into
in the
it.
association. A couple of games that you'll see on the ESPN family of platforms, including this one from the Garden. Grizzlies and Ja Morant, best ATS team in the NBA, laying 4 on the road at Madison Square Garden. Total of 217 for this 7:30 Eastern tip-off on ESPN. Erin, your favorite bet on this game is?
I'm going with the Grizzlies first half spread -1.5. Now this has trickled down from -2, which was what it was at this morning, which means that money is coming in on the Knicks. But I still like this because, like you mentioned, the Grizzlies best against the spread team this season. They're hitting 64% of that, which is pretty crazy to be hitting at that rate. But against the spread in the first half, they're second in the NBA behind the Cleveland Cavaliers. They are currently 32-20 against the spread in that first half. Now, you have a Knicks team that has been struggling. They've lost 6 of the last 8 games. Meanwhile, for the Memphis Grizzlies, yes, they're coming off that loss in overtime to Philly. We have Ja Morant and Desmond Bane. They still combined for 71 points in that game, but they didn't shoot great from beyond the arc. They went 6 of 30 as a team. So I don't think we're going to see such a bad shooting performance from them in terms of that, which might bump up their numbers even more. But overall, in the last 15 games, you have the Grizzlies, who are 5th in the NBA in terms of scoring. In the same stretch of those 15 games, the Knicks have dropped to 29th in offensive rating, 26th in scoring. So you really don't want to mess around with that team, I think, in terms of the first half. So I'm going to rock with what I know and go with the Grizzlies first half -1.5.
I do like the Grizzlies, but unlike you, young Padawan, I have the patience to wait 48 minutes. I'm just going to lay the floor for the entire game at Madison Square Garden. I know you do. You got other things to do. You probably have a social life. You probably have friends and family who want to hang out with you. So
I don't actually, not with this job.
Too much handicap. You got to get ready for tomorrow's slate. Don't have time to wait 48 minutes. Got to get in, get out. I understand that. I will just lay the floor with the Grizzlies. Why? They're the best team in the NBA as far as cover rate, as far as their ATS record. They're 34-19. They also have the best road ATS mark in the NBA. They're actually covering an even higher rate of their road games, 68%. They're 17-8. The Knicks, a pretty mediocre team. The Grizzlies, one of the best teams in the NBA. 4 is a low enough number with Ja and the Grizz to go on the road and cover tonight on ESPN against the Knicks. Second game we want to look at, also on the East Coast at TD Garden in Boston. The Hornets visiting the Celtics. Celtics a 6-point favorite here, a pretty high total for a Celtics game. That's because the team on the other side likes to run and gun. 224, 7:30 Eastern tip. What do you like in the Celtics-Hornets matchup?
So I have a weird thing where I will not bet on teams that have the color green. So I hate betting on the Celtics, and I also hate betting on the Bucks. I've shunned both of them. So of course I have to look at a player prop for the Hornets. So I'm looking at Miles Bridges over 28.5 rebounds and points. Now, he's averaging 23 points and 8 rebounds in the last 10 games. So he has bumped up those numbers. But a big point of emphasis here is that Gordon Hayward will not be playing in this game. So I do think that he'll be able to hit over these numbers. Now, these teams have met twice already in this season, and he's hit over 28.5 in both of those games, including that first game. He did have a double-double. So I do expect him to have a pretty good game in terms of, Gordon Hayward being out. On top of that, you did mention that total, which seems pretty high for a Celtics team. But like you mentioned, it's kind of run and gun with the Hornets. And I think if anybody's going to be scoring points, it's going to be LaMelo Ball or him. But again, I'm going to go with Bridges over 28.5 points and rebounds.
I'm going to need to go deeper here, though, Erin, with your aversion to betting on teams with green. Is that a Philadelphia Eagles thing? What's going on here?
No, it doesn't count. We're talking NBA. We're talking NBA. I actually don't bet on the Eagles either because it never goes well.
So wait, is it an NBA only green thing, or is it just green teams in
NBA
general?
only. I should have emphasized that. It's only NBA. I get really mad at the Celtics and really mad at the Bucks every time I bet on them. Doesn't come up.
All right, well, I'm rocking my green pin and my green jacket here. I will bet on I guess it's not. I'm betting on the Hornets. They're like a teal. That's kind of in the green family, green-blue. But I'm going to bet their team total
No, they are not green.
109.5. The reason why is because the Celtics have been playing some really good defense as of late. For the course of the season, Erin, they're 4th in the NBA in defensive rating. They also are a methodical team. They're 24th in the NBA in pace. But in the month of January, only the Dallas Mavericks had a better defensive rating than the Celtics. They've been awesome at home. We know that the Hornets like to play fast and they can score a lot, but they're usually more efficient at home than they are on the road. This will be a tough road environment. They don't have Gordon Hayward, one of their better offensive weapons available for this game. So I think the total's a little too high. I like the game to go under, but I'm going to isolate, there's that word again we love, the Hornets side.
Our favorite word.
Celtic defense, yes, our favorite word, and I think that Celtic defense is going to shut down a little bit the Hornets from meeting the expectation of 110 points. So under 109.5 is officially my favorite play for this Celtics-Hornets game. I want to dig deeper once we're off camera into this whole green thing with you. That's fascinating to me. But we have more show to get to, more picks in the NBA. Let's go down to the West Coast where the Sacramento Kings, I don't know if you've noticed, are trying to play basketball, I think. They've lost 7 games in a row. The franchise is an abysmal mess. The fans are just self-loathing down there in Sacktown. They welcome into the Nets off that loss last night in Phoenix. Nets a 4.5-point road favorite. Pretty high total here of 232 for a 10 Eastern tip. What do you like in this one?
It's funny because even the Kings don't want Ben Simmons at this point, which is kind of funny. So what I'm thinking about for this game, and if I was ever to come to Vegas, God forbid Tyler and I had a few drinks and we wanted to get a tattoo, it would say, honestly, a small little tattoo that said isolate. I'm going to isolate the Nets team total and go over 118.5. It has bumped up just a little bit. We have 2 teams that are terrible on defense. The Nets, 28th in defensive rating, and the Kings, 29th. That is in the last 10 games. Now, we know we're getting Kyrie Irving back in this game because they are playing on the road, which is actually pretty crazy that we're still dealing with this whole nonsense. But he has, in the 9 games that he's played, they've hit over this number when he is on the floor in 4 of them. But some of those games have come against really good defenses. So considering the Kings are just, like Tyler said, absolutely abysmal lately, I kind of think that they'll be able to hit over this. Also, on top of that, De'Aaron Fox is still questionable in this game. And this is just going to be one of those games. I just think a ton of points. It's going to be sloppy. And I think the Nets will hit over their team total of 118.5.
Sorry if this is a personal question. I'll answer it first. I don't have any ink. I don't have any tattoos. Are you inked up anywhere?
None.
Okay. So
None.
when you do come out here, let's do it. I'll get ISO on my knuckles. You get late on your other knuckles. And every time we pound, it's our favorite word. ISO, late, together. Right there, Erin Dolan. I, like you, am only going to bet the Brooklyn side because you can't trust this Kings team. They've lost 7 games in a row. And it's not that they're just losing games.
Yeah.
They're getting absolutely hammered. Their average margin of defeat in those 7 games is 15 points. Now, one of those losses was by 50-plus to the Celtics, which is skewing that number, but still, they are an absolute mess. It seems like they've given up on this season, like they're tanking. So I'll lay the 4.5 with the Nets. We know Kyrie and Harden will be available, so I'll trust them to go out there and dominate against a Kings team that just flat out stinks. By the way, Brooklyn has one of the worst ATS records in the NBA this season, but that's mostly because they're terrible at home. On the road, they're above 500. They're 14-10 ATS on the road.
That's crazy.
So I'm much more comfortable trusting them to cover a number, when they're away from Barclays. So I'll lay the 4.5 with the Nets tonight against the Kings. Finally, our 4th and final game to look at, Blazers visiting the Lakers down in Southern California. Of course, no LeBron James. He is out. Looks like AD is probable, and Malik Monk will be starting. Lakers laying 4, 223 the total for this 10:30 Eastern tip. What you got?
So I really want to bet on a Malik Monk prop, but he still has not been available at all. The only thing you can bet on Malik Monk is for him to score that first basket. So I bet they're trying to wait to see what happens with AD and where they're going to post his number. He is coming off one of the best games of his career. He had 33 points and 10 rebounds, which is great, but they still lost to Atlanta. So the Lakers, we thought at this time of the season that we'd start seeing them make that insane push, but you have LeBron who's going to be out, like you said. AD is, probable and whatnot. So I'm just really concerned about the Lakers overall. I'm not making a bet on this game, one, because it's at 10:40 Eastern. We're still not sure of the lineups. I don't really trust the Portland Trailblazers either. I mean, they're not even playing with Dame, and there's really just no consistency with either of these teams. But I'm very disappointed in terms of, the Lakers in general this season. It just hasn't been a great season. And same thing that you just talked about with the Nets being terrible against the spread at home. You have a Lakers they're just terrible against the spread on the road and at home. It's just these good teams are just not covering, which we do not appreciate.
I'm getting, Erin, some breaking news right now. We do have a point prop posted for Malik Monk. While you were saying how much you look, 16.5. Is that too low, too high?
Oh, over. Oh, that is my best bet. We're going Malik Monk over 16.5 points.
Boom. Prop comes in while you're giving your answer. You like the over 16.5. I agree with you. I'll go to the Blazers side, and their shooting guard, CJ McCollum, his point prop is 21.5. I'll go over that as well. Of course, there's no Dame Lillard. And we know the Lakers play fast. This is a pace-up spot. They're second in the NBA in pace. And if the Blazers have any chance to win, they're going to need McCollum, their star, to carry the scoring load. So that's how we're looking at the association. Great stuff all day long. Aaron, thank you to Brady Henderson and Ben Baby helping us get ready for Super Bowl 56. That'll do it for this Wednesday edition of Bet. We'll see you back here on Friday.